We've talked about modern times and the Fed's failure to deal with the asset inflation of 2002, 2003, 2004 as asset values, that is, home values, rose. A natural question in your mind might be, well, what about that other asset? What about the stock market? That rose too. So we really had a double jeopardy here. We had a rise in stock market values, a rise in home prices, and of course both came crashing down. How about that? It looks like the Fed wasn't focusing on that either. This is true. So let's turn our attention now to the stock market and let's take a look at chart 1.1 the way I'm doing right here. Let's look at chart 1.1 and observe it. It gives a nice clear picture of the Standard & Poor's 500. I'll move my cursor around. You can see the scale on the left. You can see that the scale goes from 0 to 1600. And the first question you might have is, well, why the S&P 500? How about the Dow Jones Industrial Average? Why don't we use the Dow Jones Industrial Average? The reason we don't use the Dow Jones Industrial Average is that the Dow Jones Industrial Average is heavily weighted toward what are called blue chips, the biggest of the big. Then you might logically say, okay, well, what about NASDAQ? National Association of Security Dealers Automated Quotations. That exchange only focuses on technology companies, which happen to be mostly smaller companies. What about that? Well, that's also an extreme on the other end. What the S&P 500 does is get some blue chips, some smaller technology companies, and puts them together in an index of 500 companies. And so we will use the S&P 500, as most observers do, as the best among all the stock market indicators. And as we look at chart 1.1, we can see that the stock market had a double peak and a double dip lately. Looking at it and moving our cursors, we can see the tremendous run-up in stock market values from 1995 to 2000. That, of course, would be the dot-com bubble. Then we can see the collapse, the dot-com crash, and the S&P 500 goes from about 1,500 in 2000 down to about, it looks like about 800 in the year 2002. Then we had the recent run-up, bounces off the floor in 2002, up to about a little bit more, almost 1,600 in 2007, and then back down to 800 about, again, not too long ago. So we've had this double peak and double dip. Obviously, the S&P 500 has stopped rising. Obviously, the stock market is no longer growing the way it did. Obviously, the stock market in the late 2000s, that is like 2008, 2009, was no higher than it had been in 1999 and 2000. So why is it that the stock market over that 10-year period made so little progress? There was movement up, but offsetting movement down, little overall progress. That's the next question, which we will get to in the next scenario.